Hey guys, one thing that I love to do when I play games like For Honor, especially For Honor, is I like to create stories and lore surrounding each character. I guess it's just the writer in me. But I've been working to build lore for all the warriors, and one keeps standing out to me. My female warden loadout, Ruth. When I shared her story in a live stream, a lot of the people who saw it really seemed to gravitate to her, and I was glad for that. It made me really happy to design Ruth, and so, since I've just reached 17,000 subscribers, I figured I might as well share her story here officially so you all can know and pass your judgment on whether or not you like Ruth or not. So, here we go. When Apollyon was defeated, the Lord Warden of Ashfeld, once the warden who had served under Apollyon, made immediate changes to the rules of engagement for knightly orders in battles in foreign lands. Among these rules included that 1. A lawbringer was to accompany every detachment so as to ensure that rules and regulations of the knight legions were upheld. No more incidents like what Apollyon caused in Valkenheim or in the Mire. There was also the rule that the lawbringers had the right to punish or execute any knight who behaved treacherously or against the rules purposefully. Even if the other factions would not hold themselves to a higher standard, the Lord Warden knew that to truly fight for peace, they must not forsake the oaths they swore to. Such was the case when a band of knights from the newly formed Iron Legion traveled deep into Valkenheim to destroy an outpost that housed remnants of the Bearclaw clan, a clan that had been all but crushed by the raider of the Warborn when their leader Siv died. The Bearclaws had been striking at Ashfeld towns and homes for months, and now they had commandeered a Viking village to shelter them. Among the knights sent were 3 conquerors of the Iron Legion, Fabian, Portus, and Gregor, a lawbringer to accompany the party named Tarek, a warden named Stephen of Blackwood, a peacekeeper named Grace, and a small company of common footmen. As a unit, they raided the small village. The Bearclaws fought viciously, but the raw power of the knights outweighed them, and they lacked the numbers to defend themselves efficiently. Before the sun set, the village was all but destroyed. While cleaning through the wreckage for supplies to take back, one of the conquerors, Gregor, stumbled upon a strange sight. Hidden in an abandoned house was a small girl. She looked only 8 or 9 years old, if even that. Gregor called for his fellows to see for themselves what he'd found, and when the others arrived to find her, the warden approached and asked her name. She could not understand their tongue and thus stayed silent. Gregor pulled his flail, preparing to slay her. The warden withheld him fast and earnestly. This was against the rules of engagement. Innocents are not to be harmed if it can be avoided, and this girl was no warrior. "But she's one of them. She'll grow up to be one of them. Better to put her down before she can," was the response. In his own response, the warden, Stephen, pulled his weapon in warning, and the two fought. After a vicious series of blows, Gregor was struck down by Stephen, and Tarek, the lawbringer who oversaw the campaign, allowed the death to go unopposed, as Gregor had willingly broken the oaths of engagement. But that still left the matter of the girl. Stephen, taking sympathy on her, held out his hand for her to follow him. With no options left to her, the child followed. The knights at the citadel called her Whelp. Stephen had permitted her to stay with the wardens of the Blue Citadel where she could receive food, clothing, and shelter until she decided what she'd like to do with herself. But Whelp followed Stephen like a shadow. She watched him duel, train, teach, and battle. Unable to truly rid himself of her, Stephen began to take a liking to her and even adopted her as his squire to carry and clean his armor, to carry messages, and to sharpen his weapon. Stephen was ridiculed for taking this Valkenheim girl under his wing, but none questioned him. Stephen was a very well-respected warden. His decisions were his own, and not for others to counter. But the child grew, and Whelp began to mature into a teenage girl. Stephen finally offered her the chance to become his page, his disciple. Whelp accepted the role without hesitation. Under Stephen's guidance, tutelage, and patient hand, Whelp learned how to read and write. She learned how to handle herself and give orders in combat. She learned the ins and outs of war and military duties. She was even taught longsword combat like all wardens. She was a fast-learning girl, but she was clumsy and very hot-headed. Though she didn't slack off or become lazy, she absorbed every lesson and took it to heart. When Whelp turned 25 years old, things changed. Stephen himself had aged considerably. His sword arm could not raise the blade as it once did, and his hair was gray. Whelp took more to tending her teacher than to her own training, and this concerned Stephen greatly. It was time for her to let him go, and that meant to give her her final rites. In the dead of night, while she slept, Stephen rode from the citadel to the secret keep of the wardens known as the Den of Oaths. This place was sacred to all wardens who had sworn oaths to legions, and it was here that Stephen asked for the unthinkable, to name Whelp a warden. A daughter of Valkenheim to take the oaths of a warden. It was unthinkable, inconceivable. The wardens present laughed and called him insane. The fact he'd even taken her on as a page was absurd in the first place, but to suggest she could be a real warden? Stephen was adamant and would not back down. He even offered his own life for her. Now, the Lord Warden himself had not been seen in many years since the fall of Apollyon, so he could not be consulted on this matter. But none of the other wardens could find fault in the request. Absurd as it was, there was no rule or law that forbade a foreigner from taking the oaths. After 3 hours of long debates, arguments, cursing, and finally acceptance, the decision was made. Whelp would take the oaths. 1 month later, Stephen led her to the den where 4 other wardens waited for her in full armor. There, Stephen explained what he had done for her as his last gift. As a warden, she would be free to go where she wished, fight with the Knight Legion, serve Ashfeld as he once had, and take his place among the finest order in all of the knightly orders. She could be free of his service, free to be herself. And moved by his kindness, Whelp embraced her teacher and adopted father. And she approached the center of the den, and she knelt on one knee. I decided to write out here how I foresee the ceremony proceeding. It goes something like this, and bear with me, this is kind of how I would write a story. The wardens stand in a semicircle, facing the kneeling woman, her blonde hair tied back in a braid, and her fierce, cold blue eyes closed, facing the ground as she bowed her head. She had her arm resting on one knee and her other hand on the floor. The old Stephen, standing far behind her, smiled at her while the other warden stood stoic. Whelp, you should know that what is happening today is unprecedented. An outsider has never taken these oaths, and the thought of you doing it now is almost unseemly. However, Stephen has vouched for your character, and you have lived with him for a number of years now. We are prepared to trust his judgment. Are you sure this is the path you wish? It is, masters, she answered. Then for starters, if you are to be one of our number, you must have a true name. Whelp is not suitable for a warden. Do you have a real name you prefer, girl? He asked. My name is no longer of any meaning to me. If it pleases you, I would go by Ruth. Ruth? Stephen asked. In the Bible stories you taught me, Ruth was a foreign woman who came to live with the Israelites, and through her faith she was as one with them. I am as she was, born in foreign soils to foreign gods. I now live among the faithful, and my faith has given me new life with you. I am Ruth, Ruth of Ashfeld and daughter of Stephen, she answered. Stephen's face beamed, his wrinkled face glowing with pride at her name and her smile. The Council of Wardens seemed to warm up a little to her. Then let us begin the oath, Ruth, daughter of Stephen. The wardens pulled their swords and raised them. The one furthest to the left stepped forward and stood before Ruth, glaring down at her. He had dark brown eyes and black hair tied back in a ponytail. A warden is first and foremost a soldier of the faithful. Do you swear to fight in the name of God and his church? To defend the walls of the faithful and to spill the blood of the infidels, the heretics, and the unholy who would threaten them? Do you swear to live your life with the heart of a lion and the innocence of a lamb? Do you swear to stand firm in the word, the truth, and the light that is our faith and the highest authority? Do you swear yourself a daughter of the church of God and of Ashfeld? I swear it, Ruth cried. The man tapped Ruth's shoulder with his sword and stepped back. The second man next to him, a man with black skin and shaved head, approached and glared down at her as well. A warden is secondly, but no less important, a sentinel to Ashfeld. Do you swear to protect the citizens of Ashfeld from all dangers, even ones of its own making? Do you swear to never yield or capitulate to the enemy when they threaten her? Do you swear to never sacrifice the people of this land for your own personal gain? Do you swear to always walk in line with the goals of Ashfeld's people, even when it may not be the popular or convenient choice?
I swear it, Ruth responded.
The tall man lowered his sword and tapped Ruth's shoulders before stepping away as well.
This time, a female warden stepped forward, with lightly tanned skin and cool golden eyes. She smiled warmly, but spoke firmly all the same. A warden is, thirdly, but no less important, a bulwark against evil. Do you swear to seek out the wicked and the unrighteous wherever it hides, and strike it down where it would fester? Do you swear to stain the land with the blood of the wicked, the villainous, and the deceptive? Do you swear to always and forever walk in the light, to better see where darkness hides? Do you swear to never cower in the face of villainy, and to subdue it, no matter the cost, even if it were to claim your life? Do you swear to purge yourself of all evil desire and personal maliciousness for the good of others, and to crush the snakes who would bite the heel of the righteous, no matter who or where they hide? I swear it.
The woman beamed and tapped Ruth's shoulders before stepping away. The final man approached, but hesitated just a moment, and his eyes turned to Stephen. Elder Stephen, I believe the final rites are yours to give. Stephen stood stock still a long moment, but then walked cautiously over to his disciple. He stood on stoic knees as the warden was handed a longsword to offer the oaths. My daughter.
Father.
The old man raised his sword. Finally, and just as important of all, a warden is an example to the people. Do you, Ruth, swear to live each day of your life with distinction, integrity, and honor? Do you swear to lead the people of Ashfeld to a better way and a better life? Do you swear to conduct your character, actions, and attitude in such a way that all, even those of other lands, will recognize the power of our God, our people, and our creed within you? Do you swear to live with the character of not only a warrior, but a paragon that people will look to in days of peace and in days of war, so that they may know that you are just, kind, disciplined, and beautiful in mind, soul, and body? Ruth, do you swear to carry these burdens on your shoulders from now until the Lord takes you into his arms?
Ruth held back tears as she nodded. I swear it. I swear it with all my heart.
The oaths have been sworn, the wardens replied in unison, raising their swords together. Let the Lord be our witness this day. The woman before us is dead and raised again as a warden, defender of the faithful, defender of Ashfeld, enemy to the unrighteous, an example to all who follow her. Hail to thee, warden! Hail to our Lord! Hail to Ashfeld and the Knight Legions! As they finished, Elder Stephen placed his withered hands upon his daughter's shoulders. Welcome, dear Ruth, to our Jerusalem. Now, Stephen would give Ruth his old longsword, Draconicidia, or Killer of Dragons, a few months later. But Stephen would eventually become ill and die peacefully in his bed, and Ruth would stay by his side until he breathed his last. Her mourning could be heard for hours after his death, but her heart for Ashfeld burned just as brightly as Stephen's ever did. Ruth worked to cultivate her swordsmanship. She grew in strength, dexterity, and valor. Though still hard-headed at times, she never stopped attempting to demonstrate her valor, but sometimes to a fault. It was as if she were working too hard. Unfortunately, the title of Warden did not make every knight fond of her. Many could not look past her Nordic heritage. Even some attempted to sabotage or hurt her. Her training also faltered. Many of her fellow knights were far more experienced in armor usage and bested her in training matches. She felt inadequate and began to question if she could ever honor her father's memory as she was. She was too anxious to prove herself in some circumstances and would rush into a fight or trial without proper preparation or thought, and thus would find herself beaten down. The helm she wore hid her tears of frustration at being so weak. And more than once she was called before the Council of Wardens to ask if everything was okay. And she would simply explain that she doesn't know how she can belong when she's not accepted. so she just wants to be accepted. But how can one who was never born to the knights possibly be a knight? Only 4 weeks after the death of Stephen, Ruth rode out into the Ashfeld woods to be alone with her thoughts. Now, no one is quite sure what Ruth found in the wilds, or what she uncovered, but a month later, when the town of Herodor was under siege by a large Viking clan called the Battle Boars, wearing hogskin and tusks of wild boars, they attacked Herodor savagely and with the fierce intent to steal riches and supplies. The Iron Legion was sent to stop them, but upon arriving, they saw another warden had made it there first. Ruth, the daughter of Stephen. The Iron Legion held back a little. They recognized her. They knew it was Ruth. But what would she do when confronted by her own kin? This would be her first true battle with her former brethren. Viking after Viking attacked her to fell her, but she did not falter, stagger, or hesitate. With strength known only to the Vikings themselves, she withstood crushing blows from Dane axes and swords. And as her sword tasted the blood of the battle boars and her armor stained crimson, she let out a battle cry that most knights had only heard from Norsemen. The Vikings were horrified. This warden, a knight, had the strength of their homeland coursing through her. And yet she stood against them with the valor of a warden of Ashfeld. They demanded to see her face. Ruth removed her helmet to show it, and as the battle boars beheld a shield sister under that helmet, a fellow Norse woman standing in the armor of a knight, their disgust and rage grew evermore. Traitor, convert, blood enemy. Ruth's heart sank even deeper. She was not welcome among the knights, and now she was even less welcome among her own kin. But, to her surprise, as the Vikings frothed and roared in anger, the Iron Legion finally rallied to their sister. Ruth was no longer their foreign whelp. By showing herself in all her beauty and all of her valor to oppose her once fellow Vikings, she had proven herself one of them. She was a warden through and through. She had fought against her own kin, and even when exposing herself to them for what she was, she did not falter. She had earned the trust of the other Iron Legions, and she would fight beside them in this war as any other. At last, the foreigner Ruth had found her Boaz. Legends of Ruth would grow in the coming years. In the Battle of Strauss, Ruth was said to have fought 3 Jormungandr cultists into submission. It was also said that when the Wulin sent a masterful Sanhu to burn a knight outpost near the mire, she was the first warden to meet the pyromaniac and slay him. But most impressive of all was a tale of how she supposedly was surrounded by 2 Shugoki titans called the Oni brothers, and somehow emerged from the battle alive, though beaten fiercely. It's true that she would never truly live up to the legacy of Stephen, her father, but she would find her own legacy, and Ruth would become an example to Ashfeld for decades to come. These are just some ideas for Ruth's lore that I created over the course of the last few months as I design her character. I keep changing up certain things or little tidbits about her story, but this is the general idea that I came up with. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments down below about what you think about Ruth, and whether or not you like her story or what you could see going forward with her story or things like that. Thank y'all again so much for listening. Happy to have made it to 17,000 subscribers, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.